Welcome to the Shepherd Podcast. I'm your host. I'm Pastor Chris. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. On the podcast, we like to help you get to know some of the people at Shepherd of the Hills, our church, school, and child care. We have a lot of great people here with great stories, and we can see how God has been at work in their lives and perhaps even some things that you can relate to in your own life. And so today I'm very happy to welcome as my guest Tom Farrand. Tom is an elder here at the church. He serves in our music ministry. He's a retired Lutheran school teacher and just an all-around great guy. So I'm glad to spend some time today with Tom. Tom, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So would you tell our audience a little bit about how you are involved at Shepherd of the Hills? I was joking with you before our podcast. We've been taking up most of your morning today. This is a Wednesday morning, and you've already been here for a couple hours serving. So what do you do at Shepherd?
Everything has been my pleasure. When we first visited approximately a year ago, I went up to Micah and asked if he needed any help with music, because my whole life has been a big part of it anyway, involved with music, leading congregation in worship, leading chapel in worship, and in my classroom, and then being involved in various bands and that kind of thing. So he said, yes, matter of fact, we could use a bass guitar. I mentioned that I played that. So I jumped in, I think, the next Sunday, and I've been playing bass guitar, and now lately I've been playing some acoustic guitar as well.
Yeah.
But, and then the chapel band, or the church band, and then I was asked to be an elder. So those things have been big in my time commitment here. Yeah, that's right. So today was chapel, and then last night you were here for elders meeting. So right.
We've seen each other a lot lately, which is a good thing.
Yes, we have. It's been great. It's been great getting to know more and more people through all those different involvements.
Yeah. And now you play acoustic guitar, bass guitar. You also play a brass instrument as well, right?
Yes, my main instrument is trombone.
Okay.
And I've played quite a bit of trumpet, and I'd like to play more flute, little known secret to a lot of my friends, but my wife plays flute, and she might even get involved herself, but we'll see.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. And how did music start for you in your life? Where did that passion come from?
Well, I'd have to say the early spark was my older brother, who's 10 years older than me, and he played in the high school band. Mm-hmm. And he let me, I have a picture of me wearing his band unit, his marching uniform. And that kind of got me thinking about music, I think. And then as I joined the band in 7th grade and played with our church brass. And then I had I think probably another very influential person that really encouraged me to go into music was my high school band director, who was also a member of our church.
Okay.
And he said, you have some talent there in music, you might want to consider that. And that's what I ended up doing. And there's been many other people that have been influential as well. But I'd have to say, my high school band director, who's now with the Lord, but I wish I could thank him, for his inspiration.
Yeah. So that explains the trombone and the trumpet, right?
Right.
What about the stringed instruments, the guitars? Where did that come from?
Well, okay. When I was in high school, I played in a rock band.
Oh, okay.
One of those garage bands, basement bands. And, I played bass guitar, and I had a regular guitar, but bass is what they needed. So I did that, and we had an interesting name for our band. We were called the Psychotics.
Nice.
Yeah, and if you knew our lead singer, it would make perfect sense why we got that name. But
they weren't named after you? It was the lead singer?
No, I was the more laid-back guy in the group. But that was a lot of fun in high school.
Yeah.
And as far as the guitars go, and then right after high school, my pastor asked if anybody played the guitar for the young adults group.
Oh, okay.
And I said, well, I have one. I can't play it that way. He said, that's okay. Just bring it in and just do the best you can and lead the singing in our small group, and then it just went from there. I got better and better, and yep, here I am today.
Yeah. So you have a background in music and in education too.
Right.
Can you tell me your thoughts on the importance of children being exposed to music, learning to play an instrument? What are your thoughts on the importance of that?
Oh yeah. Well, I believe it was Martin Luther who said, when you play music, whether it's singing or even playing an instrument, it's like you're praying twice. Especially when you're singing, I guess that would be. But it's just a way to praise God.
Yeah.
And I know as a band director, I always told my students, we're going to be praising God through our instruments tonight, whether it's the concert or playing during church service or whatever.
Yeah.
And we're worshiping God through our instrument. And yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. Okay. Well, let's get a little more of your history then. Mm-hmm. I think people probably might pick up on the fact you don't sound like a Texan.
This is true. Yes. I grew up in Michigan.
Okay.
And spent really all my life living somewhere in the Midwest, Wisconsin, Illinois. So we've only been here in Texas 3.5 years.
Okay.
So I'm trying to pick up the little bit of Texas slang, y'all, and all y'all, and things like that.
That's right. There's y'all, and then there's all y'all, which is all encompassing.
That's a big group, right?
Yeah, right.
And so whenever I text or email my siblings or friends back in Michigan, I try to incorporate some of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, in fact, that some of them are even picking up on it, and I'm getting some relatives that are saying, "Hey, we kind of like the sound of Texas. Maybe we want to move there someday." But yeah, we love Texas. It's we came here mainly for our grandkids.
Yeah.
My daughter and her husband finally announced that they were going to have our first grandchild.
Yeah.
And they asked us actually to come to Texas and be with the grandkids, and we thought about it. I think about 30 minutes or less, and we said yes. And so we sold our house and left all of our friends and our church and everything, and moved down here to Texas. And it's been great. We'd never go back. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, emergencies can come up, but we love Texas and we love the weather here. Even the heat's not that bad, but it's a beautiful state. And very friendly city here in San Antonio. Yeah. And this congregation is also just super friendly. One of the things we're really attracted to this congregation for. And yeah.
Well, great. Well, you and Carol add to the friendliness. I think you're both pretty friendly people.
Well, we try.
Yeah. That must have been hard to leave your friends and your community and just leave all that behind and basically start fresh here.
Yeah, it was actually easier than I thought it would be. Okay. Just because we were so excited about the grandkids.
Yeah.
And
that trumps everything else, right?
Well, it does. And most of my teacher friends who were my age had been experiencing grandkids for years and years and years, showing the pictures. And yeah, that's so nice. Maybe someday we'll have grandkids. And then when it happened, we were so excited. And then when we were invited to come down here, it was... But yeah, we do definitely miss our friends. We go down there, we go up there every fall, and we work in a campground as campground hosts in a state park there.
Really?
And we've been doing this every fall during the months of September and usually half of October.
Uh-huh.
We didn't do it this year because they're doing some construction. But anyway, so we get to see our friends. We get to worship at our old church there for about 6 weeks.
Okay.
And visit with their friends and go out and play golf and different things like that. So, yeah.
So what does that involve, being a campground host?
Oh, it's great. We love it. It's one of those things where you don't have to mind having your privacy interrupted a lot sometimes.
Okay.
Have people knocking on your door late at night and saying, "My neighbor is being too loud. Can you go ask them to turn down the stereo?"
Uh-huh.
Things like that. But overall, I mean, campers, we've been camping our whole life, some of the friendliest people around, and very open and it's just like one big happy family. And then when you're the campground host, everybody has lots of questions, and they're even more friendly. So, but our job is basically to just be the good guy. The rangers tell us you don't have to be the enforcer.
Sure.
Just go around and be friendly, say hi to people, talk to them, pick up a little trash that you see in the ground if you see any. And it's just a fun job. We get free camping. That's our pay.
Hey, not bad. That sounds like a neat thing to do. So that's a 6-week stretch every year you do that?
Yeah, 4 to 6. They'd like us to stay on to the end of October, but we usually say, I think middle of October is about enough.
Yeah.
Get back before the snow starts falling.
Exactly. Yeah. So you grew up in Michigan? That's correct?
I was born in Grand Rapids, and then I spent my childhood in Portage, Michigan, which is right next to Kalamazoo. Went to Portage Public Schools all the way through, and it wasn't until after that that we moved to Milwaukee, and I went to Concordia there, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, it was a nice area to grow up in. My father sold AAL.
Yeah.
And my mother worked for Upjohn, which is now called Pfizer. And
the Pfizer that makes the vaccine?
Right. They're in Kalamazoo, their headquarters.
Really?
Yeah.
And for those who don't know AAL, can you share what that is?
Right. They're now known as Thrivent.
Yeah.
So, but they used to be called AAL, Aid Association for Lutherans.
Right.
And so my dad would sometimes say, come on, Tom, we're going to go visit some churches. So we go around to all the area Lutheran churches, hand out napkins, pencils, pens, all saying AAL all over. And then he just, AAL or Thrivent now is a very service oriented type organization. Besides the obvious, insurance. Yeah. There's so much more that they do for the community. So that helped me. I think probably feel comfortable being in a church because, 35 years of my life working in, various churches and schools.
Yeah. Now I want to pick up on something you said earlier. You mentioned when you guys moved to Milwaukee, and you said, "But that's another story." Anytime somebody says that to me, I want to know. Well, can you tell me a little bit about the story?
Well, sure. I mentioned earlier that my pastor, it was at Zion Lutheran in Kalamazoo, asked if I could play the guitar in the young adults group, and he encouraged me to, because I was feeling like I wanted to go into working in the church in some way, serving the Lord in some way, involving youth, music, evangelism, things like that. And he encouraged me to look into the lay ministry program. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but at the time it was a 2-year program. Now it's 4. Okay. But I think originated in Concordia, Milwaukee, which is, by the way, now Concordia, Mequon.
Right. Yeah. And
basically, it's a 2-year program, which is kind of nice for people who are second career folks. And of course, I was a young guy, one of the younger guys in the program, but our goal was to use our talents to serve the Lord as kind of a sort of a DCE type position. Okay. Or in some cases, like an assistant pastor. Okay. And so we headed to Milwaukee, and while we were there, we got involved with this group called Joy Incorporated. It was a Christian contemporary singing group. Okay. And it had brass, it had 4 brass, it had guitar, bass, drums, and 6 singers with the microphones. And we traveled all over the country. Really? And the leader of that group was Gary Lohmeyer, which some of you know was the music director at Concordia for many years. Concordia Lutheran Church. Oh, okay. Here in San Antonio. And we paid him a visit when my daughter got a call to be a Lutheran teacher in San Angelo at Trinity Lutheran. Okay. So she taught there for 5 years. But we thought we'd take a trip to San Antonio and visit Gary. And we went out to eat with Gary and Lynn Lohmeyer. And at the time, I remember thinking, wow, it would be nice to live here in this city, San Antonio.
That was when?
That was back before Christy was married, so this was probably 12, 13 years ago.
Okay, so God already planted a seed there.
I know, just to want to think about being in this area.
Yeah.
And then we really like Concordia, which that was our first church when we first moved here.
Yeah.
And but now Gary is up in Dallas area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but anyway, we just felt the Lord call us to come here to shepherd, and where I'd be able to use my musical talents more. And plus, we like the idea of a little bit smaller church. I mean, it's a big enough church for sure, but we just felt a little bit more comfortable, and it seemed friendlier, and
Sure. So let's go back then to your time in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
You talked about being in a lay ministry program. You said you went to public school throughout your upbringing. Was that correct?
Yes.
But then you ended up being a Lutheran school teacher. How many years were you a Lutheran school teacher?
Well, so after 2 years, I did not get a call to be a lay minister. We're going, Lord, you led us here to Milwaukee, to the lay ministry program, and no call has arrived. So
you completed the program, but there wasn't a call for you at the end?
Just a 2-year program, but I decided, we'll go on and get the bachelor's, and I decided to go to River Forest.
Okay.
And then I got my teaching degree, and my first call was where I student taught, Walther Lutheran High School. And it was actually working in the high school, but also working in area Lutheran schools, getting their band program started. And, working with 4th through 8th graders.
Okay.
And like I said, also in the high school somewhat. But so I did that just 2 years.
Okay.
And we took a call to St. John Lutheran in Lombard, Illinois.
Okay.
Which is a suburb of Chicago. Uh-huh. And I was there 5 years. And I taught 5th grade and band in the afternoon, 5th grade in the morning.
Okay.
And had a great time there as well. Then things started changing in our family. My father passed away kind of suddenly, and my wife's mother announced that she had cancer, so we just felt like we needed to move back to Michigan. So we moved back to Southwest Michigan, and I took the call to Christ in Stevensville, which is right next to St. Joe, and I was there 28 years.
Oh, a long time there.
Yeah, and it's very similar to what I did at St. John. I taught 4th grade, some 5th grade, and I did band. Only my band was all before and after school. I taught full-time teacher, but 28 great years, a lot of great folks there, the pastors, great shepherds, and my music involvement was extensive there. So but it was just a lot of fun, and the Lord is really good to our family. Our kids got to go through Lutheran school, and just being a part of that church was great.
Sure. Is that where you retired from?
Yes.
Yeah.
In 2014, 7 years ago already. Hard to believe.
Yeah.
But and retirement's awesome.
Yeah?
We've really enjoyed it. And of course, we have this time, since we moved here, I have to say that we invited our daughter and husband and our first grandchild to move in with us in our house. So we had a big enough house they could basically live upstairs, and we live downstairs, and we share our meals together, and we do hang around together somewhat. But that has been great. We've had all this time to be able to put into that, and to do a lot of babysitting and just playing with the kids a lot during the day. And my wife she's amazing, all that she does for the kids. I mean, one thing I basically said, if possible, could I please not change diapers? and they have been very kind to me, and my wife and my daughter changes the diapers, my son-in-law too. I've gotten out of that. So. But it's been a great experience being with the grandkids, and we keep adding more grandkids. We have 3 from my daughter, and my son back in Chicago has 1.
Okay.
So we've been very blessed.
Yeah. So tell us a little more about your family. Your wife is Carol.
Right.
And when you guys moved to Milwaukee, you already married at that point?
Yes, we'd just been married. We were married in 73, and we moved there in 74.
Okay.
So, Carol she is trained as a teacher and special ed emphasis, but she did work in some special ed classrooms in Milwaukee, in Illinois. But then when we moved back to Michigan, she worked in a Lutheran school there, in Trinity and Berrien Springs, and also in Coloma Coloma Public Schools. She worked there as well. So she's been a teacher her whole life as well, and obviously took some years off when we had Christy, and then we got surprise twin boys. We had suddenly had 3 kids, and so we decided she needed to be home with them. So we sacrificed a little bit financially, but it was well worth it. We feel that she could be home with the kids and be nurturing them in especially those first 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Now, one of the real interesting things in your family is Carol locating her family. She's a great story unto herself, and found out that twins run in the family.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, there's twins galore. Okay, so my wife was adopted as an infant, and she was I think she was adopted at the age of 1 week old. But her mother gave her up for adoption there in our area where we spent most of our time in Southwest Michigan. And her mother went off to California and got married and raised a family. Mm-hmm. And of course, my wife didn't know any of that until I think it was about 11 or 12 years ago. Yeah. After her parents had both passed away, she felt like she didn't want to hurt their feelings by looking for her biological parents, so she waited till they were passed away, and then she got an investigator, to do some searching, and found out she has a family in California, and 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and unfortunately she had just missed out on her mother, who had passed away just half a year or so before Carol met her sisters and brothers. But anyway, so they're out in Long Beach, California, and we went out and met them, and we just hit it off. It's the interesting thing about that whole thing is she found out her sisters and brothers were involved in an organization called Lipstick Bail Bonds. And yes, they're bail bondsmen, bail bondswomen, and the twins are also former LAPD who retired.
The twin girls.
Yeah, girls. 2 blind, good-looking girls. They don't look like bounty hunters, but that's what they sometimes have to become, bounty hunters, when someone doesn't show up for court. So,
right.
So that was, but her brothers, unfortunately, both have passed away during this last 12-year period, but it's been just great. And Carol, always wished she had siblings. Yeah. And all of a sudden she had 4, Yeah. And so that was quite a blessing. And for them to find out they had an older sister who looked like their mother more than any of the other sibs.
Really?
Carol looks a lot like her mom. Yeah. And so, when they first saw her, their mother had just passed away, like I said, about 6 months before, and they looked at Carol and just thought they were seeing their mom. It was amazing. But anyway, it's been a great time with them. Yeah.
What was that like? 12 years ago, you've been married for many years. Right. You sort of have your family, you're set, and then all of a sudden your family just expanded and took on a brand new dynamic. What was that like? Well,
we were really excited about the idea of Carol finding her family, and I was totally behind it. But when we first found out the details, we heard that they were bail bond people and bounty hunters. And then when we got online and started doing some investigation, we found out that they were involved in a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit, against the Los Angeles police chief. There were 200 police officers. They were suing him for harassment.
Oh, wow.
And they were right in the middle of that.
Wow.
And we thought, okay, do we really want to go down this road? But it was worth every bit of it. And they've turned out to be just really sweet girls.
Oh, they are, yeah.
I wouldn't want to cross them, if I broke the law or something. I wouldn't want to have them come after me. But they're just great. They love the grandkids. They come over here a lot. And they actually are starting an office in Texas now, up in Georgetown. Right. So look for Lipstick Bail Bond Texas, folks, when you get online.
People need to YouTube that, right?
Yes, they're on YouTube. Lipstick Bail Bonds. You can see some of their interesting takedowns when they had to go after some of these guys that wouldn't show up for court.
Yeah. And I had the joy of getting to know your family better.
Yeah.
You and Carol had a wonderful birthday party, and family was there, and you have a great family. It's neat to see the relationships between all of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Glad you guys could join us, and now we've got our family here at Shepherd that we're really loving and enjoying.
I'm really glad.
Yeah.
Would love to just talk a little more about your teaching career too. So we talked about where you were in the time spans, but if you could just give a little color to your teaching career, what were some of the greatest joys that you experienced as a teacher?
Well, I'd have to say, getting that as in the classroom, as a classroom, then there was my band teaching. But in my classroom, it would be, getting that group of fourth graders that are coming in there and just sharing with them my faith. My favorite class to teach was religion class.
Okay.
And just being able to share my faith and seeing them grow in their faith. Mm-hmm. And then our worship we'd have in the classroom. As well as, just all the subjects. I highly recommend fifth grade as well as a teaching grade. They're just great. It's just before the junior high, kicks in. But no, just working with the kids, developing a relationship, and then at the end of the year, you're sad to see them go, but you got another group coming in, and it's gonna be great again. I just really tried hard to bring our faith into every subject.
Sure.
And
How do you do that? How do you bring faith into math?
Well, you can say, okay, you have 12 disciples, and then you add on, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of Jesus, and what does that equal? No, you're right. Math is a little bit more difficult, but
in general, how do you bring faith into
social studies? Yeah, it's there are a lot of philosophies out there that we as Christians don't necessarily agree with. So, we just talk about some of those and how. What we believe is different and we believe is right.
Sure. So on a personal level, can you tell us a little about your faith and how your faith has helped you in your life?
Yeah. Well, I might have a little bit different experience from a lot of people who became Lutheran school teachers. After high school, I kind of fell away from the church. I won't say I rejected God, but I just stopped praying. I stopped going to church, and I had some buddies I hung around with, and really kind of walked away from God for a while. But through my mom's prayers, my dad's too, but my mom especially had gone to a conference, and they had asked, is there anyone in your family that you're concerned with that you would like us to pray for? And my mom put my name in the prayer basket or whatever, and just she kept trying to share with me, and so. But one day, the Lord spoke to me through. It was actually through an organization called Campus Crusade for Christ.
Okay, sure.
And they used to put out this little pamphlet called "The Four Spiritual Laws." You're probably too young to remember that.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
But it's like 4 steps. God. Number 1, God has a plan for your life. 2, but we're sinful, and so we kind of mess up that plan. But 3, Christ died for us, and 4, He wants us to live our life for Him. And so I read that, and there was a little prayer. I prayed the prayer, and God used that to speak to my heart and turn me around. And it was after that that I just felt like I wanted to serve Him, you know, and Milwaukee, and the rest is history. But so I thank God for that, for reaching down to me.
Yeah, and that was really a turning point in your life.
So it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great to see what all the Lord has accomplished since then.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yeah. Yeah.
A little choked up here, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, God's been faithful.
God is good all the time.
Amen. Well, Tom, thank you so much for sharing about yourself, your journey, your experiences, and your faith as well.
Our pleasure. I mean, it's our pleasure to be here. My pleasure to be here right now. And thank you, Pastor Chris, for, I think you're one of the reasons we, made that final decision that we wanted to come to Shepherd, because of your, reaching out to us and being super friendly to us. I remember when we visited and just taking time to talk to people, and we've seen you do that a lot with others. It's just you take time. You're not in a big hurry to get home or anything like that. You're just, you're a humble guy and a great preacher, and we're just so thankful to have you and Pastor Andy, and it's been great. And the little time I got used to Pastor B,
Yeah.
and all the people you have working here. So it's been a real blessing.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much for those words.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you so much for being a part of our podcast today and taking your time to watch and listen, learn more about Tom. I know there were some things in that conversation that probably resonated with your own journey. And I invite you to join us next time as we continue to bring you some more of the great people here at Shepherd of the Hills and help you to get to know them better. Until then, the Lord's blessings to you. May He keep you healthy and safe and strong. The peace of the Lord be with you today.